fucking like who people look like. Like you look like Colin Farrell with Down syndrome.
Awesome.
Oh, that guy.
No, that guy. Like his dumpy brother did. I'm kidding. Kidding. You've got it before though. Mike looks like Harvey Whippleman.
Harvey Whippleman, oh, come on, son.
Had sex with. Or you got with this and the fucking come on, bro. I know it's bullshit, but Harvey Whippleman had to have sex with someone a little bit bigger.
All right, we're live, Derek. I love that the new splice is going to end with you talking about Harvey Whippleman.
You look like Harvey Whippleman fucked Jim Neidhart. That's what you look like. Jim the Anvil Neidhart had a baby with Harvey Whippleman, and then they both peed all over it.
All right, so depending on how the podcast is set up on iTunes and all that stuff, if you missed out what happened before this went live, we tried to have the intro. There was 3 guys that came on and started yapping. One of them started yapping. We got them all out.
Don't talk during the music. You can call it a hangout. Don't talk during the fucking music.
They came back in waves. Eventually, I got blocked. I don't know if anyone else did. But apparently once you get blocked in a Google Hangout, that's it. You're done. You can't come back in. So here we are. Derek, I was just asking you about last week when you had Brian Hemminger on the show with you and Matthew. And I think that's where we left off.
We don't need to worry about Greg Johnson. He's good people. He's called in before. He's not one of these fucking weirdos. We talked a lot of Bellator. We covered the Eddie Alvarez situation, kind of the different things that Bellator is trying to do as far as not really getting away from the tournament style, but giving them more flexibility to make the matches that people want to see. He doesn't think the Alvarez situation is good for Bellator. He's interested in the organization's health, and he thinks that if you sign Alvarez and Chandler beats him again, then you almost have to give Chandler a similar contract, and they begin to price themselves out of the market that they've set up for themselves as far as being profitable. Didn't really cover the Rebny being out rumors or the Couture being more of a face for the organization rumors. That's all news to me still in the last week. And, appreciate him coming on because Roth is a delinquent bastard. And without, the help of the people, there's no way that we could do this shit.
Yeah. The thing with Eddie, before we get onto the show this week, the thing with Eddie that's kind of interesting to me is that I imagine if you ask any MMA fan with any sort of knowledge of the sport, would you rather see Eddie stay in Bellator? I don't think there's one person would rather see him fight in Bellator than the UFC.
There are probably some people that were really big fans of Alvarez Chandler, which was one of the fights of the year, and really want to see that rematch before anything else happens. And they might say, I want to see the winner of that fight go on to the UFC. But if Alvarez even takes that rematch and gets locked into a champions clause, which he doesn't have right now, that screws him for an even longer period of time than he is right now. Every noise that we've heard from Alvarez, I've loved, because it's that he's done. He's taken the steps necessary to make himself financially independent during the interim, training like he's got to fight every day, and it doesn't sound like the settlement talks are even a possibility anymore, which I'm happy about because he's done well for Bellator, and they don't deserve his services anymore. They should have been happy for him when he left and attempted to get a promotion. They weren't, and now I don't feel like they have any kind of there's nothing hanging over Eddie's head. There's no obligation on his part to do anything for Bellator at this point. He should have been let go by now, and he will eventually, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Two bits of housekeeping here before we get into the MMA talk. I missed last week. I went to take my girlfriend to Book of Mormon, which you were not happy about, Derek. I'm assuming you're jealous.
So fucking whipped, bro.
I will repeat what anyone else that's seen the show. If you have a chance to see it, you got to go see it.
I remember hearing they did a thing on like NPR where they released the soundtrack when it first came out, and the "Fuck You God" song is one of the best things I've ever heard in my life.
The whole soundtrack actually now is on Spotify. So
I don't do any of that fancy shit yet. I still have my like 25 gigabyte iTunes library. I'll do that, and if I want to hear a specific song, I'll go to YouTube. I don't do Pandora or any of those radio station shits or anything like that.
And
what's up, Neil? Can you hear us now? Is it working good, buddy? Are we covered?
Well, I was trying to watch Cartoon Network during this boring stuff.
What is it? Are they doing like a Johnny Bravo redux, or do you watch the new shit?
Yeah, they're doing Adventure Crew right now. Which
Okay.
apparently like live action.
Don't pretend like you haven't watched Adventure Crew before.
This is the first time I'm impressed.
Now, Derek, I made a promise a few weeks ago that if someone got me a shirt, I would wear it on the air until my birthday. I have that shirt on now.
I'm
going to reveal it.
I neither know nor care what you're talking about, but go ahead. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Oh, that was glorious.
I keep
that
my
might be even
promises.
better than when
I
Subo
keep my
got
promises, boys and girls. And
I just wear a shirt over it so that people in public aren't like, what the fuck are you wearing?
No, I had to Diamond Dallas Page that shit. You know, put the NWO shirt on and then take it off, and diamond cutter everybody in the ring. I don't know if this is the biggest news of the week, but we sort of talked about it a couple weeks ago in the MMA Would You Rather have Chet Congo's career or Shane Carwin. Carwin apparently is retired now.
And Congo apparently has not been re-signed, so he's technically a free agent right now.
Right. But Carwin, you know, Derek, how do you view Carwin's career now that it looks like it's come to a close?
I look at it like a bolt of lightning. Like it almost came out of nowhere as far as his age and his distance from his wrestling past. It's interesting because I don't think there have been a lot of fighters in UFC history that had an NFL draft preview done on them while they were in college. And Shane Carwin's one of them, talking about how he could be, a two-down middle linebacker in the NFL, somebody that comes down to stuff the run. And he's a freakish kind of athlete between his explosive muscle ability and his ability to carry that much weight on that much frame with such a low body fat percentage. Guys like that are normally playing other sports. So I think he'll be remembered as a special kind of athlete. He'll be remembered as really the guy that put Brock Lesnar over in a lot of people's eyes. After the Mir fight, there were still a lot of questions about him, and despite Jonathan Snowden's troll piece the day after the fight, most people came away from that fight impressed by Lesnar's ability to absorb Carwin's punches. Carwin only has 2 losses, and they're to Brock Lesnar and Junior Dos Santos, and the Dos Santos was by decision, so Junior couldn't finish him in 15 minutes. I think that there's going to be a lot of revisionist history about Shane Carwin, that he was never that good. Having him ranked as the number 3 heavyweight in the world going into the Brock fight was bullshit. Brock shouldn't have been number 1 after beating him just because Fedor lost one fight. It's going to be a bunch of crap. But on that, in UFC 116, the number 2 heavyweight in the world fought the number 3 heavyweight in the world. And they did it a week after number 1 lost. So since then and forever in the future, the number 1 heavyweight will be in the UFC. And I don't want to hear any other shit about it.
I think for me, Carwin is a guy that I wouldn't say he was never any good, because obviously he had a period where he was very good, but I think he's a guy who just had a really short but intense peak. And, because he got into the game so late, because his body didn't, hold up, his window was very short.
I think there's an unprecedented nature to his career. How many guys, every win of their career came by first round stoppage?
I mean,
with at least 10 wins and a top 10 ranking at some point in their career.
That would
top
be
5 ranking.
If Fight Metric could ever put together, Baseball Reference has a play index, and you can search through different criteria. If they ever put together something like that, that would be a great tool to find guys like that.
To be able to, because the data's there. It's just categorizing everything. You've just got to find the right way to cross-reference it and everything. But I can't think of another guy, like another person who even ran it into the double digits to start their career by stopping everybody in the first. And Frank Mir, I mean, he beat Frank Mir quicker than Brock Lesnar did at UFC 100 and did it, in almost a more dominating fashion. So when you almost look at common opponents, he still stacks up really well with the best heavyweights of his day. And that's what I don't want to be. I don't know about UFC Hall of Fame. He was an interim champion once. I don't know about that. But I don't want his place in the division as a killer for a number of years to be forgotten. Because between when he knocked out Gonzaga and when he fought Brock, he was considered to be one of the most dangerous guys in the division. And he was. I mean, it was a legitimate concern.
The other thing with Carwin, and you're talking about, things about him being forgotten, he is probably going to escape recognition as a steroid user, even though he was pretty heavily implicated in a federal, was it a federal investigation into that one pharmacy in Georgia?
We got a new visitor. I'm scared.
I'm also scared.
Well, we'll see. Let's see.
But the only reference that was ever made directly to Carwin was I believe that the interview with Ariel Helwani, where Ariel sort of asked him about it.
Click, clackety, clickety, clack, clack, click.
Ariel asked him about it, and then Carwin basically gave him the no comment, and then that was it. And was never brought up again by anyone else.
Well, it happened years before his UFC career actually began. There was a shipment of, and it wasn't just like one roid either. It was like a cocktail. It was like a stack that arrived at his house with his name on it from this pharmacy that was being investigated. I believe it happened in about 2005. So once again, we're talking about like a while before his UFC career got started, even before his MMA career got started. And he never failed a drug test. You've got guys like Alistair Overeem that have. Plenty of guys in the heavyweight division. Tim Sylvia had. And, I don't think that's the first thing that most people remember their fighters for, even if in Carwin's case you had the actual, stuff being sent to his house and shit. I think that a failed test is better. I mean, it's worse, than what happened to Carwin, and I think that for some reason there are guys that don't get remembered for that, like a Tim Sylvia, and I don't think that'll be Carwin's legacy either, just because that happened once.
I'm worried that we're going to be entering phase 2 of the.
Hey, who removed him? That was beautiful. I blocked him first, but
I wonder if you have to be blocked.
Oh, you got muted, Mike. These sons of
Michael
bitches.
Bone.
I don't think Mike's muted, I think.
I'm not. I'm fine now.
All right, good. Well, we're going to keep clicking on these sons of bitches. Greg, you can help us out with that. I don't know who removed him, though. If Eric can
You're
do
a
that,
son of a bitch.
that's awesome.
All right.
Not me.
Goodbye. You know what? This is so much more fun. This is like commenting in a comment. This is like doing a radio show in the comment board of like MMA Junkie.
It's like it's also like
showing up like you're fucking gay, and you just get rid of them. We're like all moderators here.
It's like a whack-a-mole too.
Are they
Say
using
what?
robot voices to distort their voice too?
I don't
Sounds
know.
like
It's
they're doing what are they afraid of?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're going to do that, give me a death threat or two. I haven't had one of those in a while. That's fine. I think the only reason I maintain my AOL account and put it on my SBN is for, the weird, crazy letters that I'd get. Just put that somewhere else.
The other big news that came out the last day or two, the UFC 159 is being targeted around 525 to 550,000 pay-per-view buys. There's been a lot of hand-wringing about the number. It's a good number. I really don't understand what
some people think
is.
Some people think that since Chael Sonnen was in a pay-per-view that sold 1 million buys, that ergo Chael Sonnen can sell 1 million pay-per-views. That's not how it works. It's a fucking two-man operation. You have to combine the draws.
I was expecting over 700,000, definitely. I mean, Jones normally does, 450 on his own? And Sonnen, usually accounts for an extra 200,000 buys going by the Silva pay-per-views and the Bisping one, and it just didn't happen this time.
Well, here's 3 bullet points that I came up with on Twitter. If you saw them, great. But if you missed them, here they are. Number 1, Chael Sonnen drew more pay-per-views with John Jones than anyone not named Rashad Evans. Number 2, Sonnen Jones was bested by 3 fights since his last pay-per-view headliner. Sonnen's last pay-per-view headliner, and those were 2 GSP fights and the heavyweight title rematch between Junior Dos Santos and Cain Velasquez. And 3, UFC 159's 550,000 buys is 100,000 higher than the 3-year average and almost 200,000 higher than the median over that same period.
I'd like to see an average for title fights, but that's only because you have the public numbers, Mike. You don't have those fucking super secret numbers that the super awesome MMA journalists get because they're fucking super cool.
I think
So
you
you
have to
don't know
look
what-
at, though,
go ahead.
that this had Tough. It had a full season of Tough to sell it, and it still only put up 5. I mean, that's why I think it's disappointing.
Yeah,
Jones plus Tough.
They burned a lot of Jones. They burned 8 months of Jones being awesome on that fucking show just to build it up to this fight. That's what pisses me. If you're going to do it with Sonnen, do it as a throwaway. Let him fight again in 3 months. Don't have this huge build-up and then result in this number. That's why it's disappointing.
I don't think it shows the failure of Chael or the failure of Jones at all. I mean, that's solid numbers for Jones and Chael. It's just a terrible number for Tough, and it shows that Tough doesn't do its job anymore.
Well, what if Tough's job is to sell pay-per-views, then Tough fucking sucks at his job and pretty much always has. Tough's job is supposed to be to entertain the reality crowd.
It sold the shot Rampage.
That's true, but that happened a year and a half after Tough. So how much credit can you really give the show when there had that huge delay between the fights because of a fucking A-Team movie? Yeah. I mean, there are a number of factors that I think you have to consider. Obviously, the show helped. It was one of the best seasons ever, having the heavyweights on there. Kimbo, most watched since, I believe, like season 2 or 3. But, Tough, as long as it's not losing money, it's never going to go away. So bitching about it doesn't really do it to me. I just don't want to see champions coaching it anymore because it takes too long.
That going away, I mean, obviously they're going to need weekly programming for the UFC, but I think you could change it at a certain point. And if it's not working to sell pay-per-views, then change it.
Right. And to bring Rashad Evans back into it, talking about Evans and Rampage.
Very underrated draw. Rashad averages like 500,000 every time he headlines. One of the better draws in the UFC.
Well, the other thing about Evans, though, is that that was the only Jones pay-per-view that did better than this one. And that had a built-in storyline with the whole Greg Jackson split. And then it also had, like Rampage and Rashad had that kind of drawn out, is this fight going to happen? It happens 6 to 8 months after we wanted it to happen.
It's black on black crime. You can't top black on black crime. It is the best crime. It's the best crime.
Well, and like you were saying too, Derek, I don't think anyone. I'm certainly not suggesting that Chal's a pay-per-view money maker. He's not someone that you can throw in a main event and expect to make money. But he's done 3 pay-per-views. They've done pretty well. And if you put him in a fight that has someone interesting on the other side, Jones in his last pay-per-view went up against Vitor Belfort in an equally uninteresting, uncompetitive matchup, and Chal did 100,000 better than that show.
Well, here's my question.
Go ahead.
What do you think would have sold better, the 159 or if Chael had jumped in at 151?
I absolutely think it's 151 because the distance of Tough and the watching of the highlights and the analysis, pretty much everyone knew how fucked Chael was going into that fight. Versus even the Vitor fight, I guarantee you the lines were they had to be different because at least Vitor had a method to victory. Vitor could knock anybody out. The odds of him landing a punch versus Chael grinding Jones out for 5 rounds or subbing him, very, very different. So I think that absolutely if they'd have done it at 151, it would have been a much bigger pop. 151, it probably would have sold more than Jones-Henderson just because of the 8 days and Chael talking shit the whole time and, it's a new opponent you guys have been training for him. Chael's been training the whole time. It's perfect for him. It would have been sold out the ass and it probably would have done, 200,000 more than Henderson would have done.
See, I think it definitely would have done better than Jones Henderson. Well, maybe it would have. I think it would have done. That's tough, but I'm not sure it would have done better than 159. Just because it could have. There's an easy sell there that there's a storyline with Chal. He's coming in to pick up this card that would have obviously been canceled if he hadn't taken the fight. But, there was a ton of press for this fight. It was on ESPN. It had, we've talked about the Tough effect, but it still had 12 weeks of Tough. So I'm not sure it would have done better back in September.
I just think that the 12 weeks of Tough was counterproductive for the purposes of this fight. You may have gotten to like the guys more, but by the end of it, nobody thought that Chael Sonnen had a chance in this fight. It was clear that John Jones was better than him at everything. Looking at him just standing next to each other, you go, oh, shit. There was just no way. And I think that instead of doing it in 8 days' notice where you can make the arguments of different training camps, or your nipples look like eyeglasses, it's disturbing. By the way, next time you take your shirt off and you're wearing 2, make a little more care that we don't see that pasty shit washboard that you call a torso.
Oh, that's that jiu-jitsu abs, dude.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think I counted 6 ribs when you did that. Teeny tiny little man. Oh.
Yeah. I gotta get back into weight cutting. I'm competing on June 1st again. So
yeah, what are you walking at? Like $160, bro?
I'm 155, baby. I gotta get down to 150 to make that weight.
You big fatty.
How tall are you, man?
I'm almost 6 foot. I'm about 5'11".
Jesus.
Almost 6 foot. The mating call of the 5'11" guy.
On dating sites, I'm 6 foot, but in real life,
that's unreal.
Sites plural.
I'm gonna start saying I'm 6'6" on dating sites just because. me and MJ, baby.
Derek, you can be as tall as you want, but if that income's zero, baby, you ain't getting no play.
I get my loans. So that's like $12,000 a year.
Income, $12,000.
I gotta pay. That's what my taxes said. Last year I made 11. It was just fucking brutal.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's my life, Greg. Welcome to the party.
Now
I'm just picturing Derek on Catfish.
Dude, you see this? You think I pay for this place?
You told me you were 6'6".
Yeah, I say a lot of things, baby. You can't listen to all of them. You got to pick your battles.
Now, Derek, last week did you talk about the eye poke situation and any of that stuff?
Don't quit asking me to remember shit from 7 days ago while I'm doing this. All right, just go with the letter. You missed the show. You should listen to it. It was pretty good. What do you want to talk about this week?
Well, I wrote an article, Derek. Maybe we should talk about that real quick.
No.
I wrote an article for.
Now we're tethered. You've ruined the whole dynamic.
Sorry,
Fucking asshole.
MMA Owl, which everyone apparently hates the name of, but I don't think it's that bad. But I'm going to write a weekly column there. Anyway, I wrote this the first column.
Huge site.
Oh yeah. I wrote the first column about the eye poke situation. I really don't. And it's interesting too because right after it came out, Dana said that they're going to work on creating a new glove, a more rounded glove, which I've heard would be an improvement from people that have fought before, but I don't know if that's going to solve the problem with eye pokes.
Well, there are pictures of the Pride gloves, which is like a UFC glove. It still have finger holes and everything, but the front of it, as opposed to being just like a flat square that you wear on top of this part of your hand, and then the fingers come out here, it's more curved like a boxing glove, and it comes out a little bit further to almost like this first digit. So... but I've seen some tweets today. The bottom line is that the problem is that 9 out of 10 of these guys don't know how to throw a fucking punch to save their life. And when they're trying to find their range, they do this a lot. So when they, throw a quick left or try to come in with a cross, they forget to close their hand. Having that cover there at least ameliorates some of it. You had less eye pokes in Pride, and I want to see some fight metric numbers on this as well for the last few years. Pride versus the UFC in terms of eye pokes, because it was illegal in both. I know that Pride didn't have the greatest referees or doctors, but I think that there's enough statistical information there to make the comparison and find out if there is in fact a difference. And if so, there's already a template for what you need to do.
Cub Swanson said the problem with the UFC gloves is because they're so square, when you relax your hand goes in this position.
Right.
But the rounded gloves, when you relax your hand's in this position.
Right.
So when you're just reaching out for range, you're a lot less likely to accidentally fucking...
Don't relax your hand when you're throwing a fucking punch. Most of this shit is when a punch is being thrown. Somebody coming inside with their thumb out, which you're not supposed to do when you're punching, and just other basic things that if you just had a closed fist, it wouldn't happen that much.
Well, and that's one of the things, Derek, you were talking about the old Pride gloves. My jiu-jitsu coach actually... he's fought and he's friends with Dan Hornbuckle, and Hornbuckle fought over in Sengoku. And he was able to get a hold of a pair of Sengoku gloves. And he said those are the best gloves he's ever put on. And they're very similar to the Pride gloves. But for that very reason that you were explaining, where it curves where the fingers are, and you're still able to grapple, but your hands aren't like Ian was demonstrating. Your hands aren't going to be straight up when your hands are relaxed.
Now, what I'm
so
saying
I don't know how much of that is gonna, how much you can expect that to reduce eye pokes. I still think the biggest thing is that guys need to close their fists. And if you're waving your palm in front of a guy's hand, you got to get warned for that.
You don't see me. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. But my question is, what exactly are the regulations for a boxing glove other than the weight of it? And the fact that it covers your whole hand. Are there there are all kinds of different makers. There are different materials that you hear some guys swear by in training. When it comes to the actual fighting, is it different for ACs? Do the guys agree on it in the bout contract? Would it be possible for UFC fighters to maybe have the option between the glove that they're used to and this new Pride glove?
I know that in boxing that you can negotiate the gloves. I don't know if the commissions. I'm assuming the commissions have to have certain rules about.
I just think it's like
but
the weight, right? It's just got to be 10-ounce gloves or 8-ounce.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure there's a weight requirement. I'm sure there's a padding requirement, and I'm sure there's very basic guidelines. But I know that boxers can negotiate glove preferences.
Could you make about a corduroy? I don't know, man. You see, get your investigative journalistic friends on it. I know you still got them.
And Derek, you were talking about the fight metric idea of comparing it to Pride. The problem with that is I don't think they have data for eye pokes for Pride fights. They'd have to go back and rewatch all of them.
Especially if they don't stop the fight, and that's really what you're looking at. Because
right.
The first one, that's another thing the UFC really needs to talk about, is this thing where if you ever played Knockout Kings 2000 on N64, or if you've ever really played any of the Fight Night games or any boxing games, you know that you get a couple of free fouls. And if you're getting your ass kicked and if things are going bad, you either throw a real quick elbow or you headbutt the guy or you throw a low blow because you know the first two are freebies. And that worries me. Like, it's against the fucking rules. You should be punished.
Well, that's what I said. If you really want to curb it, first infraction, if you put a finger in the eye, accidental or not, take the point away. It's harsh, and I'm not saying it's practical. But if you really wanted to reduce the amount of eye pokes, if you put guys on point, if you put your finger in the eye at all, you're losing a point. And in a 3-round fight, a point is a huge deal.
It is. And it changes the whole dynamic of the fight. It's kind of why, you had the Musasi-Jardine deal where Musasi lost a point and that fight ended up as like a majority drive. He beat the shit out of Jardine, which is really funny to me, and it always will be. Don't commit fouls, Gegard. It won't be a fucking problem. But the point is that if guys know that internally, whether it's an unintentional nut shot, like if you do that with the eye poke, Mike, then what's to stop me from throwing my leg kicks high until I catch you in the balls, knowing that the first time I do it, we're fine. And I'll aim a little bit higher in case I start getting tired, or if you're coming in on me, or if you're clinching me against the cage and I want to get my back off the cage, I will just knee you in the balls, confident that the ref's probably not going to reset the position like he's supposed to as a result of me throwing an illegal shot. I think a yellow card, which I hate for things like in action, the ability for a referee to say, hey, you just lost 10% of what you were going to make. If you do it again, it's going to be 20 and you're going to fucking lose. That might click a little bit faster than, who cares if I lost a point, I'm just going to beat his ass anyway, and that illegal blow is helping me towards the TKO.
It's an idea. The last thing I want to mention on it, and it was one of the things in the article, I asked Rami from Fight Metric the rate of eye pokes in the UFC, and they don't have complete data, but what it came out to, he estimated you're probably seeing an eye poke in 3 to 4% of fights, and the rate of a low blow is about twice that. So, this really isn't even that big of an issue. And the whole point of my article was that, when it happens and Rogan goes on his rant, it's really not that big of a deal. It's not happening in a lot of fights. You're liable to see one eye poke every 2 cards on average.
Yeah, but the thing you have to understand about Joe Rogan is he doesn't get to be right very often. He feels passionate about a number of things, and he claims to know a lot about them. But when he he's going to be carrying the flag either way, whether he's right or wrong. So when he is right, you're going to hear a lot about it in public and on the UFC telecast more, because he also thinks he's right about all kinds of crazy shit. But you don't hear him talking about that on the air because people would say, what the fuck are you talking about? This way, he gets to be who he is, and everybody agrees with him for a change. So I can't begrudge him that much. I'd probably do the same thing.
And McKinley Noble in the chat noting the low blow rate will be 0% with Congo gone.
Cerrone's still in the game, and I love Donald Cerrone, but he kicks people in the balls on a pretty frequent basis. And I don't think he does it on purpose. I think it's a function of his Muay Thai and the fact that he's pretty much taller than everyone that he fights, but it happens a lot.
Derek, did you see the video of Miguel Torres after he got knocked out by Michael McDonald?
No, I haven't, but I've heard. Dude, concussions are rotten shit things. Did you see the hockey hit the other night that fucking had the guy bleeding on the ice? He landed on his face.
No, I wish you had seen it because it's.
I'm sure it's still out there. What, has it been scrubbed from the internet forever?
It's been scrubbed from YouTube. I'm sure you can find it on certain tournament tracking sites. But it's just a very interesting video. I mean, the thing that really struck me was, obviously when Miguel was getting taken off the mat and kind of put on the stool, he was all wobbly, which is sort of expected. But there was audio of him and Faraz Zahabi talking. I'm assuming on their way back to the dressing room.
Uh-huh.
And Miguel asked him, what punch was it? And Faraz says he hit you with an uppercut. He hit you with, I think it was a right uppercut.
Mm.
And then he's like, oh, what weight class was it at? And Faraz like, oh, it was 135. And Miguel's like, wasn't it 145? No, it was 135, Miguel. Was it Hominick? No, it was McDonald. And then he went full circle and asked him again, what punch was it that knocked me out? And
it's a concussion.
Yeah,
Mikey.
well, and that's the thing. The only thing that I have
bruise on your fucking brain. It happens.
He's also a dude who had so many underground fights and so many fights before you
Yeah.
became, prominent.
Another guy that you look at and you think young and you think fast, and then you look at his. I mean, what was he at, like 37-1 before the Bulls fight? He's
Something
got
like
a
that.
lot of mileage on him as
Frank
far
Mir's
as
favorite
MMA
fighter?
miles. Oh God, Frank Mir had a big crush on Miguel Torres.
Yeah, that was weird.
I have the video.
And that's so weird when you consider that Frank Mir's real name is Francisco. There was a little bit of a Latin brotherhood going on there, if you understand what I'm saying.
The other thing about Miguel too is that a lot of those fights early on in his career in Indiana were against guys that were much bigger than him, because that's what made him money. Posted, Jesus, this is 4 years ago. This is after the
so
Bulls
old.
knockout.
You know what was like 3
Oh, that
years
was
ago?
amazing.
I think it was either 3 years ago or 2 years ago. Barry Congo.
Was that 2 years ago?
Yeah, bro.
No,
Jesus.
More than.
that had been last year, right?
2011, buddy.
Are you serious?
Really?
Fucking call me a liar. Look it up.
I'm looking it up right now, son. Pat Barry, Czech Congo was, June 26, 2011. The 2-year anniversary is coming up next month.
God
Coming
damn.
up on June 26th is always going to be the day my fucking house always burned down, but I guess that's cool too. God
I
damn
think
it.
we can all agree on that, yeah.
Fucking
That's all I
Waldo.
remember now.
The goddamn Waldo Canyon fire. Everybody on Twitter, Mike, like, get the fuck out of there. Like, I'm going to evacuate when they're evacuating other people. You can't get in their way. You go when they tell you to go, Mikey. You'd be horrible in a natural disaster. You better get out of Chicago, buddy.
What natural disaster is coming to Chicago?
And fucking, dude, that's where they arrested the dirty bomb suspect. Are you kidding me? You got the Steers Tower. That's an attractive target. What is it
Does
called
that
now?
count as a natural disaster?
What is it called? The Willis Tower now?
Yeah, it's the Willis Tower.
Fucking poor
What?
Sears.
The what you talking about Willis Tower?
There you go. The big bash.
Not the British Willis
You ever been
Tower?
to the top of that thing? That'd be like the first thing I did in Chicago. I'm going up there.
Derek, did you take a look at that article I sent you on the in the email?
A sense of urgency. Oh, okay. Well,
Well, there's just one quote in here that this is an article on Bleacher Report written by Scott Harris about brain injury in MMA.
I don't know why he chose Edson Barbosa and Terry Edom for the picture. That was a clean hit to the jaw, and like he didn't land on his head or anything. Like that wasn't terrible as compared to like I don't know Brock Lesnar's hammer fists on fucking Randy or a number of other things that I consider like it's a long ass article, Mike.
Yeah,
Fuck
it is.
you.
But there's one quote towards the top here, and it relates to stuff that you and I have talked about on the show before. In the meantime, there are a few commonly accepted methods of evaluating the extent or risk of brain injury in an MMA fighter. Bernick, who is one of the doctors that he's a neurologist in Vegas, Bernick is hoping research will help to change that. Quote, there really is no objective way to decide when a person should stop fighting or not be licensed to fight. When do you decide not to fight or grant a license? It all depends. We have no objective way to make those decisions. And that's something that you and I have talked about a lot, especially when we're talking about like Vanderlei Silva and other guys that have been around for a while that
should retire right now and fucking never fight again because they're just going to be drooling fucking pieces of shit. So glad he knocked out Brian Stan. I watched that the other day just so I could relive the moment when I got to get and laugh at everybody. Benoit should retire in the ring and just fucking burn like $400,000 he's going to get for fighting Joe. Just light it on fire because who gives a shit?
The problem is that it's not that there isn't a line. It's that we don't know what that line is.
You know where the line is? When they apply. Because this shit's bad for you. Like, when should football players retire? Before they play. It's not a healthy lifestyle. It shortens your lifespan. Like, I mean, these are really, like, physically adept people. They can live to be 100 if they just stop running head first into each other. It's the way it works, and there's never going to be an objective way. There's never going to be a 0 to 100 scale, and then when you hit 60, you can't risk your neurons anymore, because then, you know, there's going to be like Mothers Against Drunk Driving for brain injuries. They're going to want it at 55 and 52 and 48. It's never going to end. There's never going to be an objective way to do it. I completely applaud the research. I want more of it. And if they, you know, if God forbid they discover that one of these moves is too dangerous, then I'm sure it will be banned. I don't want that to happen, but it's the reason we don't have knees on the ground. And not even because there's data to support that, but because there's that inherent fear.
Can you imagine Joe Rogan's reaction if it turns out 12 to 6 elbows are the most dangerous moves for concussions?
It's the exact same. There's no difference.
You know, I can't wait until a fighter dies in the UFC and Derek's reaction.
You can't wait.
Derek's reaction is he shouldn't have been there. He shouldn't have gotten into the sport if he didn't want to take that risk.
Mike's gonna get fired. What's your reaction gonna be? Shut it down?
Time to wrap up shop, boys.
Yeah, it's all right. That was a good run. It's a good run. Pack it in.
Speaking of knees on the head on the ground, there was a couple articles about Dana and Lorenzo. And I believe maybe Mark Ratner talking about, I think it was Mark Ratner actually mostly, trying to lobby the Association of Boxing Commissions to change the rule regarding the 3-point rule on the ground, where guys were putting their hand off and on the mat.
If they could just adjust that to not include the fingertips, I'd be okay with that. That you have to have your whole palm on the mat, or it doesn't count. That's your third point, is the palm of your hand. Because you see guys and they do this shit and they stick one down there. And if you have to do this and then pick it up and actually put weight on it, that's a whole different deal as opposed to like the gaming that some people do. Or you could just do what Herb Dean does, which is if he sees a guy doing that and he's like, I'm not calling that. And I've heard him say that to a fighter, like, I'm not giving you credit for that. Fuck that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I'm just thinking about it offhand now. I almost would rather see if they're going to continue having no knees no knees to the head on the ground. Maybe the guy on the ground has to have his knees down. If you're standing up with your hands down on the mat, you should be able to get kneed in the head.
Oh, a 4-point stance, they're never going to allow that. Like you're bear walking towards somebody, you get kicked in the face. Because if you allow knees, how do you ban kicks?
What situation are you going to be in when you're on your feet and on your hands where you're not trying to get up?
Remember how Rashad started the Rampage fight? You wanted to walk up and just kick him in the face?
Well, he just wouldn't start the fight like that if that was the rule.
This is true. This is very true. That this would change the dynamic of. What do you think about this rule change, Neil? What do you think about knees to the head on the ground?
I think you should be able to knee people in the head when they're on the ground.
I do too, and I think it would really change the dynamic of the fight. And I'm always for wrestlers having more tools because they've had them systematically removed as the rules have changed in the last 20 years.
It's not even just for wrestlers though. It's also a defense against wrestlers. If a guy comes in with a bad shot, that's a way to punish him. If you get stuck in a single leg or a double leg and you can't knee the guy there, the ability
it rewards your sprawl more than anything else, knees to the head on the ground. Because if you sprawl on somebody and you end up on top of their back with your chest, there's not a lot you can do because they turtle up and you have to either try to circle around or reset the position somehow. With this, you can punish them for that shitty shot or reward yourself for having better wrestling, and you'll see a lot less of that in the second and third round where guys are just desperate, leg hugging. They're going to get punished for that more. That's how a lot of fights in Pride end.
See, what would worry me is, what you were saying about guys turtling up. You see that a lot at the end of the fight. A guy's dazed and he gets down on his hands and knees, and the guy got around behind him and just start landing punches. Can you imagine if someone like Anderson Silva landed a knee to the side of your head in that position? You'd die. It would kill your ass.
Well, Anderson, bringing him Anderson's he's always the one guy that I point to when people talk about how they don't want knees to the head on the ground, because what Anderson's able to do in the clinch, in the tie clinch, taking a guy's head and throwing it towards the mat while his knee comes up into you, has got to be way more violent and dangerous to your health than just getting kneed on the ground.
I'd like to see some sports science shit on it, because I just think that the immobility of the neck on the ground and the possibility of a knee landing on the crown of the head as opposed to the face or jaw, it leads to a compression and a possibility of possible vertebrae damage that and like stingers and things like that you see in the NFL when guys come in on spear tackles. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see a guy eat a knee to the top of the crown and start fucking spazzing out on the ground. What'd you say, Greg?
I was just saying, that's the first thing I think when I think knees to the head of a grounded opponent is that I'd love to see it, because obviously the fact that it's going to speed up the actual fight. I think that everyone wins, but spinal damage. Is anyone do we have any information on people who have actually gotten damage to the like crushed vertebrae and actual injuries from knees to the head on the ground?
Someone asked Benjamin.
Say what?
Someone asked Dr. Benjamin.
Don't say that name on this show. That is redacted. That is banned.
Dr. Ben? I don't know who that is. I know
you don't need to know, and I envy your position. All right, that's fucking the best way to be.
And I don't think it's the best argument, but there was 5, 6, 7 years of Pride, and I don't think anyone had any serious injuries with getting kneed in the head. Obviously, the one concern I would have is what you brought up, Derek, is compression to the spine, getting hit on the crown. That's the one thing that
a stinger injury to the neck basically leads to like a temporary seizure in a lot of cases, where you just kind of go like this while you're on the ground. The ref's going to drag the guy off you. The camera's going to be going. Joe Rogan's going to go, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Even if it's on fucking Fox, it's just not a good thing. It's not. It's mixed martial arts, so we always want to allow more techniques. We always want to allow more moves in as many as we can. And I think that the acceptance argument, I don't think there are going to be a lot of the 48 states or 47 states that currently legalize MMA that would go backwards on it if the unified rules were changed to allow the move. But the potential repercussions of it outweigh the potential benefits, especially to the guys running the show.
It's a couple more things. You alluded to this one earlier. There's rumors, no idea how accurate they are, that Viacom wants to insert Couture. Randy Couture is the face of Bellator, and kind of phase Bjorn Rebney out. First of all, Derek, do you think there's any possibility to that? And then, regardless of that, is it a good idea in your mind? Is it a bad idea?
I'll answer this in two parts. Number one, I think there's more credence led to it by the Alvarez kind of tweet outpour that came out during the last week and a half, asserting that he didn't really blame Bjorn Rebney, saying that it really wasn't his call, that Rebney didn't really own that much, that he's just kind of the spokesperson. I mean, Dana White owns only 10% of the UFC. It seems as though Bjorn Rebney is in a position of even less leverage when it comes to Bellator, especially with Viacom backing it. The second question is, I would recommend against entering into a business relationship or a domestic partnership with Randy Couture. I just wouldn't do either of those things if I were anybody.
And then YouTube's got a new feature where they have YouTube channels that you can subscribe to for a price. The UFC is one of the first on the bandwagon. They actually wanted the WWE, but they turned it down. They're with Yahoo now. But I checked; it's $5.99 for the UFC channel. I looked; there's not a lot of content.
Is that a monthly fee?
$5.99 a month. There's not a lot of content right now. It looks like there's about 8 fights, a bunch of tough episodes, a Best of Pride, and UFC Unleashed Episode 1.
You know when they're going to get my $5.99? They're going to get it when I can see Joe's son's balls get obliterated. That's when I'll get my $5.99.
It really really should be a revamped vault. It should be fights maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks after they happen for the prelims, and then a little bit longer for the main cards. You're never going to sell a fucking DVD again, so they should just get out of that business now.
Why has no one ever got that right? The whole library thing? The WWE didn't get it right. Why don't you just put your whole fucking library up there and let people watch it? Like,
number one, the WWE website and their video catalog puts the UFC websites and video catalog to shame. There's no competition between the two.
Well, the UFC used to have their own vault, and there was a couple different versions of it, and both of them were just absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, they sucked. I got one for I think if you bought Degree deodorant, you got it free for 3 months, and I did it, and it was a piece of shit. That's when I really started using more illicit means to find prelim fights, because I really the first prelim fight that I got from somebody via at Mega Upload was Rick Story beating the absolute dog shit out of Dustin Hazlett. Because I remember I was reading every live blog, and they were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this is legal." And hey,
is that a dog?
Yeah, it's my dog Baxter. What's up, buddy? That's the one that ran away during the fire last year.
Oh, what's up, Baxter?
We got him back.
It's actually kind of crazy to think. It was about 5 or 6 years ago that you had to download them from the UFC, and it took forever to download them. And I think they were Windows movie files, and they were huge, and they were unwieldy.
What they should do is a Blizzard torrent client. If you own any Blizzard game and there's a download or a patch or you want to get it, then they have a private torrent. And anybody who has it that's downloading it at the same time, you get pieces from them and you give pieces to anybody who's doing it at the same time. And because you're not just getting it from their server, it amps up the ability to download it and keeps your speeds up a lot faster. It's so backwards, and I want to see what they do with Roku, because they've been talking about that damn box for 3 years now.
You know what, though?
Talking about the world beyond cable and beyond pay-per-view, because that is coming, and they're already looking towards that business model in the future. I just want to see fucking more actual steps towards it.
Greg, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, with regards to Roku, have any of you guys used the UFC Xbox Live app?
I have.
I mean, how much of a piece of shit is it? I mean, really, it's sad, because there is a huge opportunity there, I think, for them to provide a lot more content. But granted, it's free. They can do a per fight, paid thing as they do right now, but it's just bare bones. It's just useless.
I actually thought they stepped it up pretty good for the Jones.
They did. They had 7 fights or so, right?
They had 7 fights. They had a timeline of events and stuff, and I think they had interviews and pre-fight press stuff.
Yeah, I'll give them that. That was definitely the first time that they got real about it.
Yeah, in the past, it seemed like that they would put up a fight. That week of the fight, they would put up a couple days before, an old fight, and then take it down the next day and put something else up. So you couldn't just go through and sort of watch a handful of fights.
And that'd be so much better, especially for online coverage, to be able to do a running timeline of the fights leading up to it with their YouTube availability, and then on the Friday for the weigh-in, say, okay, this is everything we've done. This is his last 3 fights. This is his last 3 fights. This is what's going to happen next. Maybe this is their first fight. Like I said, you're not going to get people to say, man, I loved UFC 79. Let me go to UFC.com and buy that DVD for $19.95. It's never going to fucking happen again.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and even selling individual fights for 99 cents. I mean, they I think if they went more towards a iPhone, Android model, where you're selling cards for $1, you're selling cards for, depending on when they happen. Anything before UFC 100 shouldn't be more than $1.
I think that piecemeal approach kind of hurts them. I think that you make some content available free. Maybe, UFC 4, UFC 72, do that randomly, and then say, look, if you want access to the entire library unlimited whenever you want, and, we're not going to let you keep the copies because fuck that, but you can stream them at any time, that's $15, $20 a month. I think that's when you really start to bait people in.
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? To what McKinley's saying, even if they charge $5.99 and make every past fight available on YouTube, that's fine. That would be worth it. Absolutely.
Well, it's just every past fight. There has to be at least some kind of you need 3 or 4 months probably for pay-per-views because you have to create the incentive to watch it live and not just say, we'll do it by
And I don't mean fights like you can exclude the last 6 months if you want to do that. If you want to make it an exclusive thing, obviously, just have UFC's 133 and prior, available.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other thing too, they have done a good job of in the past few years making more fights available for free leading up to events, featuring guys in the card. But as we were talking about the Xbox Live app, it would be great if they had a web page or some sort of system where you could get all that stuff in one spot without having to search YouTube for Chael Sonnen fights.
I'd also like to see them invest a little bit more. What was the name of the Irish guy? I'm sure Ian will know this one.
Conor McGregor?
Yeah, there you go. The guy that he won his last fight in spectacular fashion, and then it comes out that, I always do this. I've won like 15 fights by first round KO. I want fans that see that to instantly be able to hop on the internet and go to UFC.com and pull up his past highlights. I mean, what are his previous promotions going to fucking charge? $7,000 in a bag of baseballs? Like, what the fuck do they really want for access to this guy's video library? It can't be that much. So just do it, and that way, when he wins, it's instant, and people can say, "Wow, this guy's really good," and it gives bettors more information, stimulates more interest, and really puts the other promotion over, because people start to tune into them and say, "Hey, let's see if any of these guys are going to be worth the shit in the UFC someday."
Well, Derek, it's crazy though, because Dana White's so good at finding video on YouTube that you'd think he'd be able to tweet that stuff himself.
Did you see today that he saved a turtle in traffic in St. Louis?
I heard about it.
That was the most un-Dana White tweet I've ever seen.
What the fuck?
Oh, who was that?
Neil's blowing up. He left the room. It's probably his girlfriend.
All right, Derek, MMA would you rather, before we get out of here. Would you rather take an eye poke from Chuck Liddell or a low blow from Czech Congo?
Ooh. I gotta go low blow. I mean, there's a chance of permanent damage there, but I like the ability to see. And Alan Belcher's story has just scared the ever-loving shit out of me as far as ever taking eye pokes. I still hope that he's okay after the Bisping fight, so I'd probably rather take the low blow.
What about you
but
guys?
Then you can never be fucked blind. Come on.
But with a low blow, maybe he gets one test. Well, getting them both is going to be tough.
Do you get to wear a cup?
Well, you're wearing a cup in the fight. You don't get to wear an eye cup in the fucking ring.
Is it Joe Rogan's favorite Muay Thai steel cup?
It would be
Diamond
for me.
MMA.
Oh, I'd wear it too. Fuck my flexibility. You can eat my ass.
All right, what do we guys in the peanut gallery?
Oh, if I got to wear one of those magical Joe Rogan cups, I'd take the shot to the groin.
Yeah, I'd roll the dice on the groin.
And
Yeah,
Greg,
I think I'm gonna make that unanimous. Groin.
groins all around. I think that's the right answer.
All right, eye poke from Liddell or 12-6 from John Jones.
Ooh.
See, I always come up with better ones than Mike, and I know him for
12
about
to 6
15
where?
seconds before I do.
I don't know, man. I feel like I'd still take the 12-6 from John Jones, because even then, it's
Might have a
not-
broken nose, might cave your sinuses in, probably get a nice big gash, might hit you in the fucking eye anyway. You could ask fucking
take the eye
Brandon
poke.
about that.
Yeah, I don't think that's close. I'd rather take an eye poke.
Yeah.
Okay.
'Cause, I mean, it's only a thumb, and Chuck was nice and gentle with his thumb.
All right, what's worse than what's worse than a 12-6 from John Jones? Powerbomb from Randleman, the Randleplex. Would you rather have that than 12-6?
Ooh,
You
I'd
might
rather have a
die
12-6
during
one.
that
Yeah, you
move.
might die from
That's
that.
He got headbutted in that too. No, I'm thinking of the slam, the Rampage slam.
Oh, the rampage.
Yeah. Well, and the Couture Gonzaga slam as well. Everybody thought that was a Couture headbutt. I did for the longest time. It's actually Gonzaga's own knee smashing him in the face.
The Randleman slam, though, you just got to practice falling from great distances, and you'll be fine.
Tuck your chin and fucking pray to God, I guess. Don't land with your head straight. No, I don't know. I'd probably rather have the 12-6 that. But what in MMA history? What's the least thing you'd rather have done to you? The spinning wheel kick by Edson Barbosa?
Absolute worst thing.
Tarek
That,
Safedin's 20-minute
the
fucking
worst thing I
dancing on
could
your
possibly
leg?
The
It would have to
Verdun
be
uppercut
Randleman's
from the 80s.
Fedor slam.
Paul Harris having a hold of my leg for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're Alan Belcher, that ain't a fucking problem. I loved Alan Belcher so much after that fight. Very
That was hardcore. Yes.
Who was the dude that split his fucking shin with a leg kick? I don't want that.
Corey Hill?
Cody
Yeah.
Hill.
You can't
That's
go
fine.
injuries. I'm talking about things that have been done to you, not I kicked the guy and my leg broke.
Yeah, the guy checked my leg kick and my leg broke in half. Fuck that.
Had nothing to do with the
That
fact that I'm a
was
6'2" lightweight.
Oh, dude, he's like 6'4". I'm pretty
Yeah, I'm
sure
sorry,
he's taller than
6'3".
me.
Yeah, at least 6'3", right?
Corey Hill is a giant, skinny man.
All right, we're on our way out of here, guys. Derek, any final words?
This was atrocious.
Show.
Thanks everyone for sticking around, and God help us. I don't even know anymore.
Let's all see if we can ban Mick Fagan again.
I feel every fucking week, Neil. Embarrassed for showing my goddamn face. Ugh.
Your kidney represent! Kidney represent!
No, like I said, you don't quit the soup kitchen, you just stop coming. Put your efforts elsewhere, I guess.
God, that is the most hideous anything.
That's a shirt that they actually sell?
That should be a fucking fez!
Is that real? Oh, God.
I'm pretty sure you get one of those when you get banned as a punishment.
They got the size of his face right, though. It does kind of stick out past the cowboy hat and then end, like, right here.
Damn it, Derek, stop talking during the music.
Oh, you fucking bring out my wrap it up box. You can talk during the end music, don't talk during the fucking intro music. We learned that lesson today.